Whenever Black History Month rolls around, we always focus on the civil rights movement, on communists like MLK and violent radicals like the Black Panthers. But what if I told you that one of the earliest Black leaders was a far-right capitalist who hated welfare, loved segregation, allied with the KKK, and wanted his people to return to Africa? Marcus Garvey openly called himself a fascist. He said that, quote, "We were the first fascists. Mussolini copied our fascism." He wanted Africans to be free and equal, but separate. He wanted to preserve their unique culture and heritage, and he wanted the same for white people. Europe for the Europeans, Africa for the Africans. He believed that segregation was a good thing, and he hated race mixing. He allied with the KKK, saying that, quote, "I regard the Klan, the Anglo-Saxon clubs, and white American societies, as far as the Negro is concerned, as better friends of the race than all other groups of hypocritical whites put together." Garvey wanted Black people to create their own Black schools, Black businesses, Black communities, and Black social clubs. Your knee-jerk reaction might be, no, you can't do that, that's segregation. But the reality is that every ethnic group in American history did the exact same thing. Whether it's the Irish, the Koreans, the Germans, or the Italians, immigrant groups always formed their own ethnic schools and communities. To this day, in any major city, you can visit Chinatown and hear people speaking Chinese. You can visit Little Italy and eat delicious Italian food. The Irish, the Italians, and the Chinese retain their own distinct cultures. They stick together and they're proud of where they come from, and personally, I have no problem with that. When St. Patrick's Day rolls around and all the Irish Americans wave Irish flags and sing Irish songs, I don't think, oh my gosh, that's treason. You need to be loyal to America. You need to assimilate. Au contraire, I think it's cool that these communities have preserved their traditional ways of life. The idea of Black nationalism seems extreme until you realize that everyone else did the exact same thing. Garvey didn't want affirmative action or DEI or welfare or reparations. He actually hated socialism in any form. He wanted Black people to succeed through their own merit and hard work. He even blamed Black people for their own problems, writing that, quote, "Most of the trouble I have had in advancing the cause of the race has come from Negroes."
These are people going around stealing Coca-Cola. People getting shot in the back of the head over a piece of pound cake. And then we all run out and we're outraged. Oh, the cops shouldn't have shot him. What the hell was he doing with the pound cake in his hand?
He described them as crabs in a bucket. Whenever one crab was about to escape, the others pulled him right back down. We still see this today, where any Black person who studies hard in school or works a stable job is accused of acting white. When Black people demanded integration, when they demanded that they be allowed to sit in the same train cars as white people, Garvey said, "Did you build the railroad? Did you build the train? No. So sit down. Make your own damn railroad. You have no right to demand white people's property." He believed in, quote, "the pride and purity of race." We believe that the white race should uphold its racial pride and perpetuate itself, and we also believe that the Black race should do likewise. There is enough room in the world for the various racial groups to grow and develop by themselves. He wanted all the Africans to sail back to Africa and create a united Christian ethno-state. Because of this, historians have called him racist and elitist, but at the end of the day, he just wanted Africa to succeed. He wanted, quote, "to assist in civilizing the backward tribes of Africa, and to promote a conscientious Christian worship among them." Marcus Garvey isn't just a strange, obscure historical figure. He is the founder of Pan-Africanism, and his ideas have influenced generations of Black leaders, from Malcolm X to Louis Farrakhan. That's right, it's time to talk about Yaqub.
Yaqub calls upon you, soldier. There is an imitator in your ranks preying on our failure. Agartha depends on you. Take him out!
He said, "You come from a land down under, where women know and men wonder."
The Nation of Islam is a black nationalist religion created in Detroit. They believe that white people are a race of devils created by an evil scientist named Yaqub on the Isle of Patmos, and that white people have no divine soul.
I'm skin angel. Can you tap that white girl for me? Oh, after the devil made you, he broke the mold.
Allah, or God, is not a single being, but a long line of black men, the most recent being Fard Muhammad, who founded the religion. Any day now, Fard Muhammad will return in a spaceship and create an Afrofuturist utopia. White people are not allowed to join the Nation of Islam. Members are held to strict dress codes and patriarchal gender roles. It's basically Mormonism for black people. You've all seen those memes about how the pharaohs were actually black, and the Romans were actually black, and Jesus and Shakespeare and George Washington were actually black.
You got more conspiracy theories than that dude with the hair who believes aliens built the pyramids.
They might have.
You have an obsession with power. You just threw the F word around like you're in England looking for a smoke. Oh no. No.
What?
Trevor, are you a hotep?
Hotep is Egyptian for peace.
God damn it!
My great Nubian warrior. Dinner's ready.
We have a guest. Meet my old Fay wench.
Hey, bro, you hungry? I was about to make a bowl of cereal. You want one? Excuse me, cereal? Yeah, I got Captain Crunch. My Hebrew Israelite, highly melanated but underappreciated brother, I know that you did not just offer me a cereal, which is a sugary substance that is not made most delectable until integrated with a white milk. What? Your second sin, my low down dirty brother, was that you offered me a cereal called Captain of Crunch. You might as well have offered me a Massa Meal or Cracker Pops. You dead ass? Because you know it's just a children's cereal. CCC, my underconscientious brother, this is what they want you to think. Think about it. He wears a naval hat, the symbol of the men who put us on chains and bolts against our will, and then he called them Crunch as an oppressive force that they snap our bones with, and then he has this series of multicolored dots that represent his slave prizes. CCC, my brother, this is a white man's cereal. What in the fuck are you talking about? It's a, you know what? Fine, don't eat that. Whoa, hold on. I didn't say I didn't want it. Can you put mine in the cup?
On the one hand, it's all very silly, and there's no doubt that the Nation of Islam is racist against white people. They literally consider us demons who eat babies. But at the same time, the results speak for themselves. The Nation of Islam, for all its bizarre takes, does encourage black Americans to practice discipline and hard work, to have stable families, to avoid drugs and alcohol, and to build up their own communities.
People who were brought to this country were stripped of their names, language, culture, religion, God, and taken totally away from the history of themselves. Here are 30 million people who don't wear their own names, they wear your names. Who don't speak their own language, they speak English, which is not their language.
The Nation of Islam owns acres of farmland, where they grow healthy organic food for inner-city families. They provide food, housing, and inspiration for thousands of black people all around the world. Two of its most famous members were Muhammad Ali and Malcolm X. And even though both of those men were undeniably racist against white people, they embody black excellence. They were both successful, well-spoken, hard-working black men who accomplished great things. Good for them. By the way, Malcolm X eventually left the Nation of Islam after a visit to Mecca and converted to actual Islam.
We don't learn the history that we need to learn about in school. Because you will still find people, conservatives will hate Malcolm X because they think he just hated white people and never changed. And then you have far left people who love Malcolm X because they think he hated white people and never changed. And it's like, the real story is that he renounced all of the horrible stuff and became a person who desired spiritual unity.
I'm a Muslim. I believe in the religion of Islam, which believes in brotherhood, complete brotherhood of all people. And the same God that he says that he expresses the existence of is the God that the Christians profess to believe in themselves, and the God that the Jews believe in, one God, the creator of the universe. The Jews may call him Jehovah, and Christians may have another name for him. Those who are Arabic speaking refer to him as Allah. Well, we believe in the same God.
Regardless, the Nation of Islam has done some great work. They created a militia called the Fruit of Islam, an all-male organization that patrols black communities, stopping crime and helping people. In the 1990s, these young men were sent into some of the most crime-ridden, run-down housing projects in places like DC. And guess what? We saw a notable reduction in crime. For the first time in years, families felt safe enough to gather on their front porches, children played freely in the streets, and elderly residents ventured out for evening walks. Just as Marcus Garvey allied with the KKK, the Nation of Islam allied with the American Nazi Party. George Lincoln Rockwell considered Elijah Muhammad a great man and attended the 1961 Savior's Day party to support the Nation of Islam. During the event, he actually met Malcolm X and donated $20 to the cause. Today, the Nation of Islam is considered homophobic and anti-Semitic, which is definitely true. They say some pretty terrible things. But at the same time, they are doing real-life work to improve black communities, not just giving them welfare and fake jobs. Younger leftists often mock the Nation of Islam for saying things like, "Pull up your pants and get a haircut." But it works. We sometimes talk about black radicalism as though it's just one monolithic entity, but you really have two different movements. There are the socialists who just want infinite free stuff, and there are the black nationalists who want the black community to pursue excellence and strength. To be sure, these two strains merge together and flow together, and there's all kinds of overlap, and believe me, I have plenty of problems with the black nationalists. I don't approve of anti-Semitism, I don't approve of the homophobia, etc., that's all bad. But that reactionary black tradition, which goes all the way back to Marcus Garvey, still persists and is still a dominant force in black culture in the form of hoteps and influencers like Umar Johnson.
Spider-Man across the universe, and he's bunny hopping in the damn trailer I saw on YouTube. How the hell you gonna have a black superhero cartoon for our children? And he's lusting and thirsting over the skim milk.
What should you do if your son or daughter wants a white partner? Put them out the house. That's all. Put them out. Put their asses out. That's all you gotta do. Put them out.
In fact, the data shows that black people are far more likely than white people to believe that interracial dating is wrong. You've all heard of Kwanzaa, right? The Black Christmas. It was created by a man named Ron Karenga, who believes that black people are, at their core, African and should not assimilate to white society. He encourages his followers to adopt Swahili names. They always greet each other with Hotep, which is Egyptian for "I come in peace." If you watch his speeches, there's this profound sense of elitism bubbling just below the surface. He is creating a black elite, the best of the best, and he sees the uninitiated ghetto blacks as inferior, ignorant, unruly, and dangerous. He wants Africans to be civilized, educated, and self-controlled. For all his flaws, of which there are many, he may well have killed Malcolm X, this is a highly intelligent man. He has 2 PhDs and works as a professor of Africana studies. He's not some sort of crazy leftist. Back in the 1980s, he met with Ronald Reagan and the LAPD on multiple occasions. Are you seeing the pattern? All these great black leaders, Garvey, Farrakhan, Karenga, they don't want a post-racial world where traditional cultures all just melt together into a homogeneous pan-mixia blob. They want African civilization to be separate, to promote excellence and tradition, and they want white people to have the same opportunity. But of course, we're skipping over the elephant in the room. W.E.B. Du Bois, the first black man to earn a PhD from Harvard. To put it bluntly, Du Bois was a eugenicist. While modern black leftists say that everyone is equal, Du Bois said no. Some of us are better than others, and greatness is a biological phenomenon. His most famous idea is the talented 10th. He said that the top 10% of black Americans were the future of the race. As he wrote in 1903, the Negro race, like all other races, is going to be saved by exceptional men. He advocated birth control as a way to weed out the laziest, stupidest members of society, writing an article from Margaret Sanger saying that Black Americans, quote, must learn that among human races and groups, as among vegetables, quality, and not mere quantity, really counts. In 1936, Du Bois traveled around the world, visiting Germany, Italy, and Japan. If you know anything about world politics in 1936, that list of countries might surprise you, but Du Bois said that the Nazis treated him with kindness and respect. He saw the Japanese Empire as an antidote to Western imperialism, and he opposed intervention in World War II. For Du Bois, the way to save Black America was not infinite welfare and handouts. In fact, he condemned indiscriminate charity for encouraging bad behavior in the Black community. He wrote that few poor nations waste more money by thoughtless and unreasonable expenditure than the American Negro, and especially those living in large cities. Thousands of dollars are annually wasted in amusements of various kinds, and in miscellaneous ornaments and gewgaws. The Negro has much to learn of the Jew and the Italian, as to living within his means and saving every penny from excessive and wasteful expenditures. Du Bois was totally correct, by the way. If you look at modern America, Black people are far more likely to own expensive cars, costume jewelry, and gaudy clothing. They're far more likely to spend money on iPhones. Today, Du Bois is mocked for blaming Black people. His idea of the talented 10th is seen as elitist. That's not fair. Why should some Black people succeed while others are still living in the ghetto? Well, because that's meritocracy, baby. If you actually cared about helping Black Americans, you would want the best of the best to succeed. The only way to actually lift up a community is to encourage excellence and discipline. But for decades and decades, Black America has done the exact opposite. They resent anyone who succeeds, anyone who makes it out of the hood, for selling out and acting white.
But I did everything. I cooked, I cleaned, I hand washed the toilets. Everything your butler does for you. I'm not accepting no prep school, Bel Air bred sellout into my fraternity. Because I live in a big house or I dress a certain way, being Black isn't what I'm trying to be, it's what I am. I'm running the same race and jumping the same hurdles you are, so why are you tripping me up? You said we need to stick together, but you don't even know what that means. If you ask me, you're the real sellout. Yeah, that's right, boy.
Of course, the irony is that ghetto Blacks are the real sellouts. They're the ones actually acting white because that ghetto culture comes directly from their white slave masters. The violent outbursts, the insecure arrogance, the irresponsibility and laziness, the fiery cadence, and even the accent of ghetto cultures comes directly from the Celtic fringe on the borders of Scotland. Thomas Sowell wrote a great book about this called Black Rednecks and White Liberals. It's worth reading. Today, ghetto culture is celebrated as authentic and soulful, whatever that means. When white parents adopt Black children and leftists scoldingly admonish them to put their kids in touch with their cultural heritage, we all know which cultural heritage they're talking about. They're not talking about Egypt or Ethiopia. They're not talking about the Queen of Sheba. They're talking about the ghetto. No, sorry, that culture sucks. It has caused immense suffering for Black Americans, and it needs to be destroyed.
Chased by a guy wielding a knife, guy wielding a baseball bat, even nunchucks. There could be someone dead in there. We have found bodies in these tents before. Look, he's carrying the club. I think it's time to move. He might be coming in our direction.
Let's take an honest look at ghetto culture. Here's a fun fact. Nearly half of all the murder victims in America are Black people killed by other Black people. Here's another. Only 33% of Black children have 2 married parents. The leftist response is, oh, that's just because of slavery and discrimination, but that is simply not true. Before the 1960s, during the height of segregation, the Black murder rate was declining rapidly. After the Civil Rights Movement, when we got rid of all the racist laws, the murder rate started to skyrocket. Why? Because we stopped putting criminals in jail. We started paying people to be lazy and stupid, and we destroyed freedom of association. Before the Civil Rights Act, white business owners were allowed to say, "No black people," so black people had to behave. They had to dress nicely and be well-groomed. They had to be polite and respectable so that they would be allowed into grocery stores and restaurants. That might sound like an insane, crazy thing to say, but this is exactly what happened with the Irish. When they first got there, they were very rowdy, they were uncultured, they were uncivilized, but because people discriminated, because people said, "No Irish," or "Irish need not apply," the Irish got their act together, they conformed, they started dressing nicely, they stopped acting out, and lo and behold, the Irish today are just a respectable part of the American population. And again, that's not to say they need to give up their unique culture. I'm glad that the Irish had their unique culture, although I wish they had just kept it in Ireland. But the same is true of black people. I don't want black people to give up African American culture. I think that there's a lot of beauty to the cookout and to the African American heritage. But the criminal parts of it, the rowdy parts of it, the uncouth parts of it, those need to be destroyed. You can't blame slavery for the broken families either, because the generation right after slavery had much more stable families than black people have today. As Thomas Sowell writes, the widespread and casual abandonment of their children and of the women who bore them by black fathers in the ghettos of the late 20th century was in fact a painfully ironic contrast with what had happened in the immediate aftermath of slavery 100 years earlier, when observers in the South reported desperate efforts of freed blacks to find family members who had been separated from them during the era of slavery. A contemporary journalist reported meeting black men walking along the roads of Virginia and North Carolina, many of whom had walked across the state or across more than one state, looking for their families. Leftists will blame all of this on racism in the education system, but if you actually look at the data, the average black student receives more funding than the average white student. If you have a black student and a white student with equal grades and equal SAT scores, the black student is astronomically more likely to get into Harvard or Yale or any other college in the country. So why are black people so poor? They have an unfair advantage. Why are they lagging so far behind? Maybe it's not because of racism. As the black professor Shelby Steele wrote, black students exhibit, quote, a determination not to learn. He said that, quote, I can walk into any of my classes on the first day of the semester, identify the black students, and be sadly confident that on the last day of the semester, a disproportionate number of them will be at the bottom of the class. I spent about a year going to church in the ghetto and working with black kids from the community. Reading these stories feels painfully familiar. Some of the black kids I met were very nice, and I hope they're doing well wherever they are in life, but a lot of them were very rude, loud, and violent. They would threaten to kill each other and us. They would have insane outbursts, and they would sit there on their phones watching videos they were way too young for. Randomly skipping school, meandering about the city for no reason, getting into trouble, nothing's changed in 150 years. If anything, it's gotten worse. The other day, I walked to an anime convention. Long story, you can go check out my community posts if you want to know what transpired there, but I thought it would be close by, and then it ended up being a 3-hour walk through some of the worst neighborhoods in DC. The streets were covered in cigarettes, half-eaten food, human feces, liquor bottles, and single-use plastics. By the way, anyone who blames suburban white people for destroying the environment should take a walk through an inner-city black neighborhood sometime. You would think they'd never invented trash cans and just threw everything into the street. I saw rotting homes, brainless druggies, mutilated trash bags hanging from trees, and I even saw someone breaking into an alcohol store. At one point, I walked past a black church, and there was this old black couple walking into worship. I smiled and gave a friendly nod, but they just glared at me as if to say, "What the hell are you doing here?" There is no denying that black America has serious problems. Rampant crime, drug use, unemployment, low IQ, failure to succeed in school, failure to form proper communities, and failure to function in society. So what's the solution? According to leftists, the solution is to just keep giving them more money, taking from the middle class to fund welfare, food stamps, public schools, and homeless shelters. We also need affirmative action and diversity quotas so that unqualified black people get into jobs in universities instead of qualified white people. And we need to abolish the police and prisons because somehow if we stop punishing criminals, they'll stop doing crime. That is all a load of nonsense. We need to return to black excellence. We need Marcus Garvey and W.E.B. Du Bois. We need black elitism. We need the talented 10th. The leftists will respond that even if the best of the best try to escape the ghetto, white society will still discriminate against them. But that's just not true. Back in the 1800s, there was a fairly large community of black people in New England. Some were slaves that had purchased their own freedom. Others were immigrants from the Caribbean. These were the best of the best, highly intelligent and capable, the talented 10th.
Chosen out of the white mainstream constitute a veritable society within a society, largely paralleling but separate from the various levels of social structure found among whites. This World of Astoria Debutante Cotillion, given semi-annually by the New York chapter of a leading Negro women's club called the Girlfriends, is virtually identical to those held here by white groups, save for
this is a class project. I don't usually use the term quote-unquote anti-blackness because these people love being black. They just love being a certain type of black person. What they don't like is poor people. And they dislike poor black people. And they dislike poor black people because they are poor. And what you have to understand is that this is not necessarily just some kind of aberration that exists amongst educated, professional, managerial black people. This has been an institutional view of upper middle class and middle class blacks that has been weaponized in organizations going back to the early Urban League. And this is all part of the notion that these people are a problem. They are not like us. I don't know if you've ever watched the very, very interesting video. It's of upper middle class black folk in Los Angeles in 1960 in LA talking about the incoming wave of blacks coming from the South to LA. And these folks, literally, you would think you were talking to white property owners about how they're worried that these black people are going to come in and mess things up for them. These are black people.
You recall at our last meeting, we discussed the problem of integrated housing, and we found out that almost 1,700 Negroes are moving into Los Angeles a month. By 1970, there'll probably be 1 million Negroes in this city. And I know that people are concerned about this. They may not talk about it very often, but I certainly heard them shudder in church.
The majority of these people are not like we are. And we felt that maybe some of us felt we left the South because we were getting away from this problem. We are a part of this exodus too. But we are a little maybe embarrassed by the fact that here we're going to have a mass element come in that's going to create a tremendous social problem in the community to which we find a great deal of difficulty in relating to.
It is widely known that the average IQ of blacks is about 85, compared to the national average of 100. But these New England enclaves scored higher on mental tests than white Southerners and other groups like Eastern Europeans. After the Civil War, many of these black elites traveled south to help the freed slaves, and they were horrified. Dr. Patton, the president of the AMA, lamented that slave children, quote, grew up in communities of prevailing ignorance, superstition, and immorality, where they live in miserable hovels, see only examples of coarseness and rudeness, and hear only a Negro dialect. Instead of celebrating ghetto culture, these New England black elites recognized that ghetto culture was the enemy, that it was holding back their people, trapping them in misery and poverty. So they created schools for black children, where order and discipline were strictly enforced and laziness was punished. They were very strict and very harsh, and it worked. White visitors were often shocked when they visited these schools and saw black children reciting Greek and Latin and solving geometric equations. This New England black elite never suffered discrimination. In cities like Chicago and Detroit, black and white families lived in the same neighborhoods and sent their kids to the same schools. This New England black elite never suffered discrimination. In cities like Chicago and Detroit, black and white families lived in the same neighborhoods and sent their kids to the same schools. It was only in the 1900s when hordes of Southern blacks started immigrating north with their high crime rates, that everything fell apart. Almost like white people aren't innately racist and only become racist in response to how black people behave. The New England black elites actually hated the Southern blacks, seeing them as loud, annoying, rude, and dangerous. Which was totally true, by the way. In Pennsylvania, the rate of violent crime among the new Southern blacks was nearly 5 times that of the blacks who had been born there. If you read what they had to say, it sounds like a stereotypically racist white person. Quote, loud talking and fighting on the buses. That never happened in the old days. As Du Bois wrote, the black elites were overwhelmed and dragged back by the Southern blacks. The moral of the story is that everyone, every group of human beings, should pursue excellence and greatness. I want African Americans to succeed. I want Africa to succeed. I believe that Ethiopia and Egypt and the history of the Congo and all those other places is profoundly beautiful and fascinating, and I want to see it, go to the stars. I want to see them win. I'm rooting for them. But if they want to win, they have to actually try. They have to incentivize striving and greatness and hard work, and they have to stop rewarding failure. We need to gut the welfare state. We need to crush ghetto culture, not through violence necessarily, although we should arrest criminals, but through cultural shaming. We have to stop encouraging it. We have to stop glorifying it. Black excellence is possible, and I'm cheering for it, and I hope it happens. God bless America. God bless Africa. God bless the mother country.